session. Perfect, perfect. Cool. Handing over the
Are you,
session to you, Ankit.
yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So just before we get started, do we need a quick recap of what we did yesterday? Or
I guess, Ankit, if you could just give a quick recap, it's gonna be help them to understand. Like maybe there are a few folks who are joined today, right? Session.
okay,
So in that case, if you could just can just give a quick recap.
yeah, sure, I can do that. So
Uh,
yesterday we went a little deep into product roadmap. Um, uh, and we did quite a few things, and we'll be continuing on that. So today we'll be talking about product roadmap and backlog, and we'll do a I wanted to do a practical example also. Actually, I wanted to bring in something that I'm doing currently, but then I realized probably that will be confidential to share. So I decided to put something else, which is something that each one of us can relate to. So we'll be doing that example. But before we get into that, this is a very important slide, which which probably everyone should focus at. Everyone should kind of you know breathe in this slide, because something that will help you um, have your something that will help you align with your stakeholders, something that will help you deliver value to your customers, to your business, quarter on quarter, year on year. And what this slide really says is that for whatever you are doing, for whatever product you're working, uh, you need to have a very clear vision, and then based on that vision, how you're going to achieve that vision, which is your strategy, and then how you're going to execute on your strategy is your roadmap. Roadmap, it's not so if someone in your team, or if someone in your leadership is just asking you for a roadmap, and it's probably not asking you for your strategy, for your vision, then probably there's some gap. Either So I would not say there's some gap, because either the vision and strategy is already in place and you may not be aware, right? Those things have already been documented, have already been aligned um, on with stakeholders. Your leadership is already aware. So now it's all about, what's your roadmap to execute on the strategy. But if that does not exist, then please take a step back, and work on those two things, because then working on roadmap is going to be very, very simple for you. Roadmap is not a list of features. If someone is just putting down features in a list, in a sorted order, that's not roadmap. That's not even a backlog. I would say it's a list. You're just probably wasting your time, your development, your engineering time's effort. You will build those features, you will roll out those features, and you would not know how that feature impacts the customer and impacts your business. So do always take a step back and focus on the first two things, and then focus on roadmap. Now there'll be situations when you would not be held responsible to come up with your vision and strategy, because typically when you start with your product management career, these are the things that probably a senior level person would be working on. But always try to get an opportunity to collaborate with that person on these things, because this will help you understand how it is to be done, how to convince and influence different stakeholders across the organization on your vision, how you understand the problems of your customers. So you will get exposed to all those facets of product management, which are very, very important for you to again deliver value. Um, so I'm going to stop here for like 10 seconds. Any question on this slide? Because this is super, super important. Okay, if no questions, then probably I'll just move on. These are a few things that we talked about. Quickly coming to some steps here, which these are the steps that we will actually see in execution today. I wanted to, just not put down some content and some steps for you to follow. I actually wanted to execute on these steps, and this is exactly what we'll do in the example today. Step one, always have your vision and strategy in place, and that's going to guide your roadmap. Step number two, do not have a list of features. Basically, your roadmap should be having themes. In Jira world, it is called Epic. Uh, but yeah, it should have themes, and within those themes, you will have ideas, you will have hypothesis, and you may also have features. I'm not saying that they will, you will not say features, or you will not have features, but it's like uh, essentially those ideas, those hypotheses, those features should be delivering on a theme, and that theme is basically aligned with your strategy, and that is basically helping you achieve your OKR. So that's step two, uh, something that we saw yesterday. Step three is do not focus on solutions. Always focus on problems. Solutions will automatically fall in place. And step four was that for your roadmap, convert your strategy into themes, and each theme will have its own swim lane. So remember when I was talking about um, my current product that I'm managing, I had those three strategic pillars. So those were my themes. Those were my big boulders that I would focus at. And within those big boulders, I would be working on different things, and I would not be working on all those different things together. I'll be prioritizing which ones should I be focusing at more, which one is helping me deliver an end-to-end use case, right? And we'll talk about all those things in how to put those things in action in practical life in today's session. But just before we get started, any questions, any comments, feedback, anything that you may have heard or you may have witnessed in your career so far around the space that you want to share?
Ankit, I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are parts of like access to all streaming audio devices, Epic or you call it right. I don't know what to call it exactly. Yeah. So all
Which
this
one?
is the strategy part. Three of them are there, right?
Yeah, so
The
these three become,
themes. Yeah.
yeah, so these three become my strategic boulders, which will,
Yeah. So
if I
on the
execute
product
on
manager
this. Yeah.
plans it all, like every inch of it, or does it take help from like engineering head or UX department?
Yeah, so everyone is involved in different phases of life, in different phases of product development life cycle. So let's say, see, the first step would always be what's the problem and who is facing that problem. That would be the first thing. So even in your practical life, if you are, everything will start with a problem. Um, and probably let's take some example. Uh, so let's say I don't want to take milk basket as an example because that I've done multiple times. Um, let's take this Bright Eco example. we talked about it yesterday, but let's talk about it again. Ritik figured out that there was a problem, and the problem was that uh, there are a lot of people who want to explore product management, and for them to make a right decision whether product management is good or bad, or whether they want to explore more, whether they want to go for a career in product management, they would like to learn more about it, so that they can take a right call for their career, because shifting careers is not something easy, right? You have to make a conscious decision of making that shift. So there was this problem. Number one was that uh, you know there was a group of people who were not sure what product management is. So that was problem number one. Problem number two was that uh, people knew what product management was, but since they have not experienced them, since they have not worked in that space, uh, they probably did not have um, an awareness of all the facets of product management. What does management, what does a product manager really do, and what are the skills, what are the things that product manager should focus at, develop, right? So let's say these were the two problems that Ritik figured out. And then he also figured out that there were a lot of people who were already in product management, who were in their product management career, and uh, who wanted to contribute, who wanted to help other people get into this space, because there is a huge room. There are so many products that are getting built, developed today in different facets, right? In different uh, let's say organizations in different sectors. It's just not software. There are multiple hardware products that are getting launched. There are automobile products that are getting launched. So you need a product manager for all those kinds of products, right? You have FMCG products getting launched. You have alcohol products getting launched. You need to have someone who can be a customer's advocate for all these kinds of products, right? So there was a on the other side, Ritik figured out that there are people who work in this space who can help um, uh, new people get into product management space. And that's where this idea of Bright Eco would have come in, right? That's where he would have figured out that I do not know what the vision that Pritik has, but probably it's like help people build careers in product management, something like that, right? And now his strategic pillars would be, uh, one of the strategic pillars would be that we need to have people um, who are working in product management come on the platform. Second would be, he wants to make he wants to create awareness among the people who want to get into product management about Bright Ego. So those becomes the two strategic pillars, and now there'll be themes. So coming back to this example that you're seeing on my screen, our vision is this, which gets broken up into these strategic pillars. To your question specifically, Preetham, I think uh, the product manager will have to take lead in most of the scenarios. And that's where it's very important to have that leadership mindset uh, for a product manager. It is not that you have to use your authority to drive decisions, to drive discussions, but it's all about how you bring the group together. So you will definitely have to be a lead, I would say. That's what I do, to facilitate all those discussions, to facilitate all the decisions. I'll give you a very quick example. So the space where I'm working right now at Indeed is risk management within payments. And one of the things that I'm looking at is what's the fraud percentage when it comes to payments. How many card testing attacks happen at Indeed? What's the chargeback volume that we typically get? And I'm trying to address that problem. I know that there is substantial problem there, and I want to address that problem, right? Now there are multiple ways to address it, but I did not get into that. What I did was I started looking at some data. I started talking to few people, and I started to gather some, uh, you know, I started to build some problem statements. The problem statement that I just talked about: card testing, approval rates, chargebacks, refunds. So while talking to many people across the organizations, I figured out that these were some problems that we face today. And then I worked with people in data science to help me understand that, hey, what's the impact of all these problems? How big these problems are? Is it substantial? So today, let's say we make 100 million in our in our revenue. What's the percentage of chargebacks in that revenue percentage? Is it like 10% or is it 1%? Or let's say if we get 100 customers today adding their credit card or charging their credit card, what percentage of those attempts result into card testing attempts? So that helped me figure out that how big is this problem, what the problem, what's the size of the problem. And then what I did was I was working with different stakeholders. They were already understanding the problems that we have because they were part of those discovery, sessions. And then it was pretty simple. It was all about figuring out how we are going to go about, what will be our high-level themes and what will be our what's going to be our roadmap to solve those to basically achieve those themes, achieve those goals. Uh, and that's when just having your right stakeholders who have been with you throughout the discovery process. I'm sorry. Just having them together will just help you drive things quickly. When you have a group of people kind of assisting you, kind of consulting you, it's not that you are taking all the decisions in silos. Because at most of the times you will be wrong. So there'll be people who will be correcting you. There'll be people who will be cushioning your decision, your thought process, and that's how it keeps improving. So short answer, sorry, I gave in probably a very long example to kind of convey my point, but a very short answer is that you will not be doing everything by yourself. But what you really need to do is lead most of the things. You will have to lead. You'll have to define your stakeholders who will work with you on defining this. That those stakeholders may be from different departments, but defining your stakeholders would be super, super important. Once you have done that, then it's all about just working with those stakeholders, working with that group day in and day out. All right, does that answer your question, Preetham?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Also, there is like input and consultation with the stakeholders, right? But
Correct.
decision making is from our side.
Correct. So typically there is a RACI thing. I'm not sure if you have heard of that. So RACI is nothing but R is for responsible, A is for A is for accountable, C is for consultation, and I is for informed. So typically how you do it is, um, uh, let me see if I can show you in one of my documents. 1 second here. I want to show you as much practical examples that I can. Okay, probably it's taking a little too long. Yeah, so if you see here, these are my stakeholders, right? And I've defined who is going to be what in that RACI sheet. So who is going to be responsible, who is going to be accountable, who is going to be consulted, who is going to be informed. This is super important to to be defined very early in the stage, very, very early. Because if you do not have right stakeholders identified, I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult. When you're defining your vision also, so, you know, again, coming back to this slide here, when you're defining your vision, when you're defining your strategy, you need to have your stakeholders. Because otherwise what will happen is you'll put all of these things together basis your knowledge. And trust me, your knowledge is not 100%. Your knowledge is even probably it's not even 1%. But the moment you bring in right stakeholders in these things, you will see that it's a shared knowledge which is helping you build a vision that's on which you can work on together. It will be a shared thing when you're you know, talking about it in front of leadership or in front of your customers. You will have a group of people who will be supporting your vision already, right? So just having those right stakeholders defined and then figuring out who is going to be what in that RACI sheet is super important.
Thank you, Ankit.
Cool. So let's straight away get into this case study of how we'll come up with a roadmap, how we'll come up with a backlog. Does that sound exciting?
Yeah.
I was very excited when I was putting together these slides,
Yeah.
but let's see how it goes. Probably you will get excited once we are going through it. So let's say, again, we are taking that shopping cart experience. Remember, we did this funnel analytics in last week. So I'm trying to use that same example in most of the things that we are doing now and we'll do in future. So coming back to that, so we have, you know, typical checkout scenario. We have items in cart. We move to checkout. We enter shipping details. We enter payment. We enter our payment details. We review our order, and if you're all good, we hit buy now. And as soon as we do that, we get a receipt. So typical checkout flow, right? Now let's say you are a product manager who is managing this entire checkout flow at a company. Let's say it's Milk Basket that you're part of, and you have been hired to build uh, to work on the checkout product for Milk Basket. All good so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So typically, you know, as I have been saying, what you will do is you will probably you will already have a vision. You will probably already have a strategy around, you know, how that how that checkout product is going to evolve. Considering that's already there, what you as a product manager of checkout flow would be doing is coming up with a roadmap, right? And that roadmap should really align with the overall vision and strategy, right? Now, one thing very important to understand is that, which I said earlier also, roadmap should help you achieve some objectives, should help you achieve some outcomes. Now, one of the goal that you as a checkout product product manager could have is increased checkout rate, increased checkout conversion rate. You know, this can be one of the goals that you have. Now, a simple way to increase checkout conversion rate is, you know, you have all these features in place. Offer an Apple Pay option, upgrade to the newer faster checkout API, support checkouts on Android. Do you see? Okay, let me 1 second. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Yeah. Do you see any problems with this kind of roadmap? Or let me ask you this: how does this roadmap look to you? Does this look like a roadmap? Anyone in the group?
Yes, Ankit. So
Yes, it does.
Like I would say this looks more like an objective, right, rather than a roadmap. Like a roadmap might be described in a way that, you know, how will we actually go forward in increasing the checkout rate? This is like these things can be considered as the metrics, like offering an Apple Pay option or upgrading to a newer faster pay checkout, like that.
And who is, sorry, I did not get your name.
This is Rishikesh, Rishi.
Rishikesh. So according to you, these could be the matrix, the ones on the right.
Sorry, like not metrics as like per se, but like objectives. Okay, like
Objectives. Okay. 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 Okay.
hmm,
It's
Um,
brief, right? We don't.
sorry, I
There's
didn't
no
get that.
like. There's no key. It's brief.
It's brief.
There's no
Okay.
like a
Details.
yes.
Okay. What else?
there's no result or end result which we can track if
There
it
is
is
no.
success or failure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who was that?
Preetham.
Preetham. Okay. Anyone else?
It lists out the thing what should be done, but it does not tell us how to do those things. So
It does not tell us how to do those things. Okay. Anyone else?
Well, yeah, it does put up, objectives, product objectives that we, are planning to achieve, but how to go about it is missing.
So so isn't this kind of conveying that thing, Pratima? That how you're going to achieve this objective?
It does, but it is vague, is what I feel like.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Is there anything that you remember that I said just a few minutes back?
um, about roadmaps.
I've just highlighted that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
What
yesterday the roadmaps that we saw, they were like precise, isn't it?
Sure, but what do you think these are?
Kind of hypothesis.
Solutions.
Solutions.
Who said that?
What?
Solutions. Someone said solutions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
solution.
I think Pratima also said the same thing. Pratima and Anisha.
So these are solutions.
Yeah.
What are these solutions for?
Or the problem.
What are the problems?
Checkout rate to be
Apple
increased.
Pay could be something which could
A
be
checkout
users.
increased checkout rate is a metric, is an
Uh,
objective.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Apple Pay could be a good way to improve Apple users to use the platform well. So
So what's the problem?
to lure in Apple customers to resolve the issue for Apple users.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. So that becomes my problem. My problem is to increase market share. Right now, probably I'm just looking at Android customers. My platform does not serve to Apple customers today, and that could have been a business decision, right? That we are going to start small. 80% of India population, or let's say population in Gurgaon, is using Android. 20% is using Apple. So let's start with Android. But now I want to increase my market share. And to increase my market share, I want to build a platform that can be used by Apple, by Apple people. And that's where I want to have Apple Pay as an option added to my checkout flow. So what's my problem? My problem is to increase market share. My problem is to enable Apple or iPhone users use Milk Basket as the product.
Right.
But just having offer an Apple Pay option, if you put this in front of anyone, no one will understand, hey, why are you doing this? The first and foremost question would be, why you're doing this? And the moment you compare this with this point up here, you know, this was another roadmap that we were looking at, right? So this is my vision. These are my strategic pillars. These are my themes. These themes could be even more detailed, but let's say these are my themes. And then I come to solutions, ideas, and hypothesis. But if I straight jump to this point, let's say I have my vision and I straight jump to this point. I'm saying implement Alexa API. The first question would be that why? Why do you want to do that? But now if I say that, hey, I want to, my strategy is to enable smart displays for better customer experiences, which will help me achieve this vision. And for that, I'm working on two themes. One, a touchscreen UI, and two, voice control. Because if I have voice control enabled for my car stereo systems, then a customer, then a person who is driving the car does not have to, you know, lose his or her focus to change the music that he or she wants to listen to. Just by using voice control system, they would be able to change the music, they would be able to, you know, change the volume, they would be able to use other features that they want to. And that's why we want to implement with Alexa API. Does that make sense? Agree, disagree?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So coming back to this slide, what we just did was we defined our goal. So our goal was to increase checkout conversion rate. We probably would have got some alignment also on this goal. And then we just stack ranked some features. These are the three features that we kind of stack ranked. And then we started working on the roadmap. Now, the problem with this approach is that the goal that you have right now, it's pretty clear that, you know, you as a checkout product manager, you're trying to improve the checkout conversion rate. But many times the goal will not be very clear. You will have project centric goals that, hey, I want to enable Google Pay as an option. That's a project, that's a feature that you are working on, that's a solution. What is it that you're trying to achieve? What's the outcome that you're looking at? This is an output. This is not an outcome. Outcome would be that enabling this, we will be able to increase our market share in Gurgaon. So let's say we have Milk Basket and Big Basket. Milk Basket has a market share of, let's say, 30%, and Big Basket has a market share of, let's say, 50%. So by enabling Google Pay on platform, we'll be able to increase the market share of Milk Basket. Now, as soon as you launch Google Pay as a payment option on Milk Basket, what you can do is you will start measuring what's the shift in your market share. And the moment there is a shift in your market share from 30 to 35%, you can say that because we launched Google Pay as a payment option, our market share increased by 5%. And that's the outcome that you're trying to measure. And that's the outcome that will help you deliver value to your business. Does that make sense? So there'll be a lot of situations when these goals will be not clear. There'll be a lot of situations where, you know, these can be actually called hypothesis, because you do not know, just by adding Apple Pay option, will it help you will it help you achieve anything? You do not know. So in a lot of cases, they can be just hypothesis. And the third thing would be that because these are not, you know, these are not against a particular a particular theme, you would not know how to measure them. So if you enable Apple Pay as an option, what would be the success metrics against which you will track this initiative? Now, you will not have those success metrics because you do not have a problem statement. And if you do not have success metrics, then you have taken 6 months of your engineering team's time. You delivered an output, which was Apple Pay option added on checkout page, but you do not know what it led to. You would not know that did it lead to an increase in your in milk baskets market share or not. You would not know if you're getting more Apple Pay or Google Pay customers on your platform. You would not know that is it cannibalizing your customers who are using both Apple Pay and Google Pay. So you would not have you will not have any of those metrics. And why you will not have any of this metrics? Because you straight jumped into a solution. You straight jumped into features without figuring out what are the problems that we today have against this goal. So now let's change our approach, which brings us to this slide. So let's switch to an OKR based approach. So our objective still remains the same: increase checkout conversion rate. That's our objective, right? Now, what I'll do is I'll start looking at the problems in my checkout flow today. And remember that funnel analytics session, the funnel slide that we had? We were looking at what are the stages for a customer when that customer has reached the cart page. What are the steps that the customer has to go through before the confirmation page comes in? So that is my funnel, right? And what I'm looking at it is that people who have landed on cart, let's say 100 people have landed on the cart page, I want to convert all 100 of them. That's my objective. But today it's only 2 which are converting. So why 98 are not converting? So I will start figuring out those problems, right? Now, the first problem could be that, remember we said that there were a lot of customers who were dropping out on payments page. So that becomes my first, go ahead. Was there a comment? Okay, so one of my KR would be reduce dropout rate on payments page. My other KR could be reduce number of steps or clicks that takes the customer to the checkout page. Sorry, not to checkout, but on checkout page. Reduce dropout rate on review page. So once you have entered your payments, your payment details, there comes the final page where you get to review, and then you hit go, and then the payment gets processed. So let's say that's a review page. So these are some of the KRs against this objective. If I'm able to reduce number of steps or clicks to checkout on checkout page, then I'm bringing the customer closer to that buy now button. If I and so there'll be less people who will drop out, because the less number of clicks, less number of pages in the funnel, more people will reach the last button or last page, which is what you want. If you reduce the dropout rate on payments page, automatically there'll be more people going through that page, which will improve your checkout conversion rate. If you reduce the the dropout rate on review page, again, there'll be more people getting pushed to that final to that main button. So these becomes my these 3 things are my key results, and they are all aligned with the problems that we figured out just by looking at that funnel. So far, so good.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask a few people if there are any questions, because I see the group is a little silent today. Sakshi, Sai Kiran,
No question.
Anvesha.
Clear, sir.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to OKR, we have an objective, which is this, and then we have 3 KRs. There could be some more KRs. Typically, for any product, you may have 2 or 3 objectives, and each objective having 2 or 3 KRs. If there are more, then probably you are not clear on your strategy, because you should not have more. Because the more the OKRs you have, you are trying to do a lot of things, you're trying to experiment a lot of things, and so you're not focused. So for the purpose of this case study, I just came up with this one particular set of OKR. My objective is this, my key results are these. Now I will use this to come up with my roadmap. So my objective was increase checkout conversion rate. There were 3 KRs that I was focusing at, but let's say I just prioritize the first 2, because that will help me move the needle. That will help me move the needle maximum on this particular objective. And I'll come to prioritization also in next few slides. So my objective is this. My 2 KRs are these. This is where I want my team's bandwidth to get spent. Right? Now, what I'll do is I will start putting some initiatives, ideas, hypotheses against each and every KR. So this can be, these can be my themes. So one of my theme is this. Second theme is this. And now under these themes, I've put some initiatives. So these are some random ideas, initiatives that I've put. But let's say one of the idea that our UX team may be having is that we should probably move to PWA, which is a progressive web app kind of a UX. So you need not have. So when you go on to, you have 3 ways to look at a brand. You can go on brand website, or you can go on brand, that brand's app. Today, what is happening is that there is this concept of progressive web app, which is basically using the same architecture, same pages, everything the same. So the backend is exactly the same, but the UI changes basis the size of the screen the customer is viewing your brand. So when you are on the app on mobile, the backend is going to be the same, but the UI will just change basis the screen size of your phone. When you're viewing the website on your laptop, again, the backend, everything will be the same, but things will change basis the UI of basis the screen size of your laptop. So let's say that's one initiative that I'm looking at. The second initiative is that I want to reduce the manual work that a customer has to do when that customer reaches the checkout page, which is like, they have to enter their shipping details. So if I already know that this is a logged in customer and this customer has already made some purchases in the past, I can just fill in those shipping details, or probably I can give the customer options to select from, the shipping addresses, something that Amazon does. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just reducing some steps for the customer. I'm bringing the customer closer to that buy now button. I'm cutting down the friction points for the customer. The second theme is reduce dropout rate on the payments page. So here, what I'll do is, let's say by some data, by some UX study, I figured out, or let's say by some comparative analysis, I figured out that since we do not have Google Pay as a payment option, we lose a chunk of customers who want to pay using Google Pay on Milk Basket. So that becomes a feature that I would want to work on, which will help me, which will help me move the needle on this particular theme. And then let's say the payment provider that I'm using today, it's let's say Adyen. What I know is that Adyen may not be a great payment provider in India because of network issues or because of various costs associated with it. So now I want to integrate with a local payment provider. Let's say it's PhonePe, which is a local payment provider that I can, or it's free charge as a payment provider that I want to connect to. And by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm cutting down on various failures that may be happening today with Adyen, because the lesser the failures, the more the customers would be converting. So these are, that becomes another initiative that I want to work on. But now these are all initiatives, features that are aligned with those two KRs or those two themes, which is helping me deliver on this objective. I'm gonna stop here for a minute and answer questions that the group may have. This is very important, guys. So ask questions. Feel free to comment. If you have seen roadmaps
Yes,
already.
Ankit. So I have a question. This is Arshikesh. So I just wanted to have a I wanted to ask that the KRs which you have mentioned. So are these always independent of each other, or will there be cases where the where the KRs will be dependent? Like the result of one KR might affect the KR of some other, like the second KR, like that.
So it should not be that case. You should be able to identify unique KRs,
Okay.
because if those KRs are tied to each other, then essentially what can happen is that even if you deliver on one KR, even if you're delivering good on one KR, the second KR may not be doing well. But because they are tied together, the KR1 on which you were doing good may also get impacted, negatively impacted. So it's
Okay.
best to have specific, unique KRs which are not tied to each other.
Okay. So usually does this thing happen frequently that the KRs are dependent on each other, or this like we have to plan in a way that we have to make sure that the KRs are completely independent?
So you will have to that KRs are independent, KRs are not tied together.
Okay.
So there could be situations that you're working on a feature, you're working on an initiative which can influence both your KRs, these two KRs. So for example, let's see here. Yeah, so reduce dropout rate on payments page, right? And reduce number of steps or clicks to buy now. These are two KRs. Now let's say there is a problem that we have identified, which is that every time a customer lands on payments page, he or she has to enter the credit card details, right?
Okay.
And that is a friction point, because many times a customer may not have his or her wallet with him, or her. And that's when the customer may just decide to close the session, close the brand site and come back to it later when that wallet is available. Now that's a friction. Now what if there was a way for a customer to save those credit card details that could be used later? So save payment option.
Got
Now
it.
the moment you add this as a feature, let's say you add this feature here, save your payment option. Now what is happening here is that you will reduce the dropout rate on payments page, and you will also reduce the
Reduce
number
the
of
checkouts.
steps.
Got it. Got
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
you will have the success matrix for this feature. Imagine that this feature exists here. You will have those success matrix which will help you measure both of these KRs.
Okay.
right? You want to talk about those success metrics? We can do that right away. That will just complete this use case. So the simple success metric for that feature could be that percentage of people who have saved their payment option, dropout rate for that particular segment of customers, and dropout rate for customers who haven't saved their payment option. And if the dropout rate for people who have saved their payment option comes out to be lower than the other group of people, then you have achieved this particular KR, right?
Okay.
And the second success metric could be that people who who type in their credit card details, what is the percentage of people, what is the percentage of those people clicking on buy now, and then the other would be percentage of people who do not enter their credit card details but use the already saved payment option. What's the percentage of those people clicking on buy now? So by one feature, you're attacking the two KRs, which are still independent. They are not related. They are independent. But it's one feature which is kind of attacking both of them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question though. What else? What are some other questions? Okay, I am again gonna pick up few people. Ali, any questions from you?
Yeah, actually, Ankit sir, the thing was, I just joined 15 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. No
Yeah,
worries.
actually, I'd gone for a family
No,
function.
no
So I
problem. No
just joined.
problem.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. But were you able to follow this slide or?
Yeah, so I went through it.
Okay.
I got an overview because you were
Okay.
explaining now, and also you answered question.
Okay.
So
Okay. Good.
I got an overview.
Good. Um, let's see here.
Which one of these would be considered as themes?
Okay, so these two can be considered as themes.
Right. So the features would be tasks, I guess.
So, sorry, why did this
I
move?
mean,
Yeah, so these are my features. I would again not call them as tasks because tasks would be further breakdown of these features.
yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, so these are my features or initiatives or hypotheses or ideas. Right now, I'm putting them as features because most of them look to be, very straightforward, something that I have already done my analysis, something that I know will work. But there could be some hypothesis also. For example, save later, save later as a payment option. That could be a hypothesis that I want to test. So what I would do is I would probably build a very small MVP for a very small group of people and put it in production and see if it works. If it works, then I'm going to build on top of it.
Right. But these are all problems and their solutions, right?
Correct.
Or would be
So,
solutions. But what about things like those are not current problems, but it would be good to have those kind of features.
so
Where do you classify those?
can you give an example?
Nothing is coming to my mind right now, but
See,
say X feature, but it's not any problem. But if it is added to the product, it elevates the customer experience. Its absence is not like something customers notice, but the addition would be a plus to the product. I mean,
how do you know?
intuition, I guess, or evaluation
Data
of it.
survey, this can be, we can take into consideration that the customers are looking for a feature which is not there in the app, but by the data of the survey, it might have an impact if we add it.
Yeah, so that will not come on your roadmap. Right now, this is your roadmap. This is essentially your roadmap. Of course, it does not have timelines yet. But then the very next step would be just putting this in form of um, in form of a timeline view, which we can do again. But what you are saying is an idea that still needs evaluation. So what I would do is I would put it in backlog. And we are going to come to that. See, roadmap is something that you want to put things on a roadmap. Once you're sure it's gonna deliver value. There could be hypotheses that you want to test out, which will be part of your roadmap. So for example, you want to test out that hypothesis, save for later. There is some data that's telling you that that hypothesis, that idea is strong, but you still do not build out the entire feature because you want to try out. You want to put it in production. You want to see people using that feature live in action and then build it out completely. Because let's say it's a huge investment for your team to build that
Sorry,
feature. I'm saying you are not
who's doing that?
100%. Sorry, was there a question?
No. It was for something else, I guess. His mic was on.
Okay.
Hello.
So
Yeah,
let's say.
Actually, I had a question, but I sorry, my mic was on, so that's why it thought there was a disturbance.
Okay. So let's say that that hypothesis is safe for later. We have some data that's telling us that it's customers may be looking for that option. Maybe it's competition that is giving us that data. Maybe it's our maybe it is a past experience which is guiding that particular hypothesis, or maybe it is some kind of survey that we did which is telling us that. So there could be multiple ways that I get to know that save for later option is something that customers are looking for. But I'm still not sure that if that's the exact thing that customers are looking for. And what also I also figure out that it's going to be a huge investment for my engineering team to build that feature. So in that situation, what am I going to do? I will probably put that hypothesis on my roadmap and build out a very small MVP and test it out. Now, there could be situations when your engineering team does not have bandwidth to even work on that hypothesis. That's where the art of prioritization comes into action, which again we'll talk about. But there'll be situations when you'll have to take a call that, hey, do I do this or do I work on that hypothesis? And many a times you may say that, hey, we'll work on this and not on that hypothesis because this is definitely giving me value. And that one, I'm not sure if it's going to give me any value or not. It may, and probably it may give double the value than this particular feature. But this one, I know that this is the value, this is the effort, these are my dependencies, this is how I'm going to execute it. It's pretty clear. But the other one is not very clear to me. So what I'll do is I'll not put it on my roadmap. I'll put it in my backlog and try to groom it. When I say groom it, I will try to figure out what's the value. I'll try to figure out how it's going to be done, how it will be executed. I'll try to figure out how I'm going to test it, what would be my success metrics, and I'll groom it with my team. And then probably for next quarter's roadmap, I'll put it on.
Got it.
Aniket, just one question over here. Again, regarding the increase in conversion rate for checkouts, right? What I've noticed is now since Amazon and all those portals wanted to reduce the number of steps, right? After an order's purchase, they directly take your shipping details and then payment, etc. So over here, I feel we have come at a point wherein we still further can't reduce it, and this has become like an industrial standard wherein any e-commerce site using any plugin or something, third-party plugin, has managed to reduce the steps to a point, but further no innovation has been brought into it. So it's become like a standard thing. Like this is like any customer now knows that automatically shipping details would be given, and then the payment modes would be given. After that, whatever the process, if COD is there or the bank details or something would be taken.
Mm-hmm.
So here, if we can try to bring about any innovation, wherein using GPS or something, we directly try to find his location or something, and we just ask him to fill in his flat details or something like that, or also give him an approximate time from where the parcel, like always Amazon uses an estimate time of these many days is going to reach you. But it does not show us before we actually place the order that from the delivery go down. Okay, how much time how many days or time it would take to actually deliver to your house. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can also give the option wherein if the parcel is reached near to their locality, and if it's fine with them, they can go and pick it up over there if they want it urgently, or obviously if not, then it would be delivered. So anything, any such sort of method or some other automation somewhere, wherein we can kind of further reduce those steps.
Okay. And who was that?
Alias, go.
Okay. Um, so I see your point. I think the point that you were trying to make was that these are pretty standard. All the things
Yeah,
that we are
yeah,
talking about, these are
right.
pretty standard, and any e-commerce site would be doing that. By the way, not everyone is doing that. Indeed does not do
Obviously,
it.
right. All
We
good ones, I feel.
okay, okay. I would not even say that, because even the good ones may not be having all of this,
Okay,
because it takes years for for
reducing the.
correct for building the right kind of experience for every kind of customer, because each customer is different. So building right kind of experience for every customer of yours is going to take time. But
Right, agreed.
assuming that's valid, assuming that these are standard things. So what next? Where can we bring innovation?
Right, right.
I would still say, uh, and this is I was this was in some TV show. I think it was in Friends or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those the two characters. Uh, they built something which could have enabled a person sitting in the US control the lights in a hotel room in China.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so that was an innovation. They built it.
But it's over engineering. It does it actually make sense? Or did
No,
someone use it like that?
no, I'm going to ask, hey, what was the problem you were trying to solve?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you build this innovation?
Right, right. So something similar over here. You're trying to solve a problem which is not existing. If the customers are already happy with this, why would you over engineer it and try to reduce it further? When you have other
Yeah, so
things
so
in
so
your
I
plate.
so having that mindset is very important. That what next? What is it? What more can we do? But before you get into solutioning, before you
Mm-hmm.
start building out something, what you need to do is get into your customer shoes. Go and talk to your customers. Conduct some surveys. Look
Mm-hmm.
at data. Look at some trends. Go on to your competitor sites, right? Even
Right.
if your competitor sites are doing exactly what you are doing, probably go on your non-competitor sites,
Mm-hmm. You're right. Right,
right?
right,
But
right.
go in,
It's like,
get into field. When I say get into field, I'm actually not saying get into the sun and talk to your customer.
yeah, yeah.
Probably
It means,
get onto some customer support calls.
right. To get to know what the customer's problem is, right? To
Correct.
actually, right, right, right,
Correct.
right.
Always start from a problem.
You're right. You're up. So here, I think then OTP verification can be a problem, which can be solved because currently, again, the Coin app and a few others, when we have to again make payments or something, then your mobile number you receive an OTP or something from that payment link. So I think
Correct.
sometimes when there's a lot of traffic, then taking that OTP verification takes a lot of time. So I think there
Correct.
was a startup which was trying to solve this problem of getting an OTP faster or using a different
Yeah.
way to verify.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there is one part where you can bring in with innovation.
Absolutely. So if you figure out that when you're there on that two-factor authentication page, you figure
Right.
out that a lot of customers drop out. Now you can
Right.
draw out a lot of hypotheses, and now you can bring in your innovation, right?
Right.
You can
Right.
come up with multiple hypotheses that, hey, this may be happening, or this may be happening, or this may be happening. You will again have to prioritize those hypotheses, because you may not be able to test out each and every hypothesis. You will prioritize and figure out which is working, which is not working.
Correct. Exactly.
But always start from problem.
Got it. Got it.
Since you were talking about OTP as one of the problems, what I have realized is many of the sites or many of the apps.
Come on, fast.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, please.
many of the times these many sites and apps, they automatically pick up the OTP that has come in your messages.
Right, right. I agree. Yeah, that's really helpful. Directly, instead of you going and copying that number, it directly autofills that OTP from your
Correct.
messaging app. Correct.
Correct. The problem that they are trying to solve is that it's a friction for a customer. So let's say you are on app, right? And this is what I was doing for my father today. I was on Google Pay, and I had to enter the PIN that had come. So what I had to do was I had to come out of the app, go to messages, read the OTP that has come. It was a 6-digit one. I had to come back to Google Pay. I entered 3 digits because I had forgotten the last 3 digits. I had to again go back to messages, try to remember the last 3 digits, come back to Google Pay, and then enter those 3 digits. Now that's a friction. That's a friction in my experience. I'm
Because
switching
you have to
between
switching apps, right?
Correct.
Right.
If I am in rush, if I do not have time, I may probably close down Google Pay and say that, hey, I'm going to do this later.
Yeah. And
And
it's
that's a
again,
loss.
that's a loss.
That's a lost customer for Google Pay.
Right.
I may never come back.
Correct.
Right.
Same thing with purchases.
Correct.
So if it's
So
an
now,
impulse purchase, then you get time to think.
Correct. So now Google Pay, what Google Pay can do is that as soon as the PIN has come, they can auto read that PIN, fill it out, and you just have to click next or submit to go forward.
Right.
Great. Any more questions here? If not, let me move on. So there could have been a question on the previous slide, which was that, hey, how did I prioritize these two themes or these two KRs over the third one? Or how did I prioritize these 4 initiatives and not the other ones? So, which brings me to the next slide, the prioritization art, which is really an art for a product manager, because one, it is something that you have to do day in, day out. If not day in, day out, you have to do on weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, because you have so many stakeholders and everyone has some or the other idea, right? So again, giving an example, just 2 weeks back or last week, we have this roadmap already planned, and that roadmap is for 2021. In fact, we are now thinking about a roadmap for 2022 as well. And there was this team from France, who had set up a call with us, and they wanted to talk about some of the problems that they're facing with French customers. And basically, the idea was that we did not have the right payment option available for France customers. And that's why there was a huge dropout on the payments page. So that was an idea, that was an hypothesis, and the good thing was they had already estimated the impact that particular payment option will bring in. So now we have to do our due diligence to figure out that, hey, is it something that I can prioritize over some of the already prioritized items or not? And how will I do that? It's not just going to be my decision that, hey, I want to do this. Or probably the people who talked to me were very nice people. They did a brilliant job in coming up with the impact. So I'll do this. No, that's not how you will end up prioritizing. And if you decide not to do it, you'll have to go back to that same group of people, telling them, giving them that bad answer that, hey, we cannot do it. And you will just not say we cannot do it. What you will say is that right now, our roadmap has these initiatives already planned, which is helping us drive these key results or these key themes. Your initiative is a great idea. We definitely want to work on it, but the impact of this is much less as compared to the impact of the things that we are already working on. The impact of this is focused in the France market, whereas the impact of the things that we are working on will have a global impact. So that's how you will tell the team that, hey, we are not going to do this because of these reasons, but what we are going to do is we're going to put this in backlog, groom it, and come back to you with a possible timeline of when we can do it. Because they also have to tell the customers in France that, hey, this is coming and this is when it's coming. So coming back to the point, prioritization, which is a key thing that every product manager is going through daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. Now there are a lot of techniques that are already available in the market. So like Moscow, RICE. Moscow is must have, should have, could have, won't have. So M stands for must have, S stands for should have, C stands for could have, and W stands for won't have. So that's one technique. The second technique is RICE framework, which is R stands for reach, I stands for impact, C stands for confidence, and E stands for effort. So there are some frameworks that are available which people use for prioritization. But according to me, this prioritization is not so straightforward. First of all, there are a lot of discussions required. There's a lot of influencing and convincing required to come up with a prioritized prioritized roadmap. So what I typically do is, for any kind of initiative, for any kind of idea or hypothesis, I first try to see that, is there an alignment with the overall objective and overall strategy of the product? Will it help me move the needle on the key metric that I care about? This is the KR that I'm talking about. I'm assuming that if that's the case, then it will automatically be in alignment with company's vision and objective. But I definitely want to make sure that whatever idea or whatever hypothesis a person is coming up with needs to be aligned with the overall objective and overall strategy of the product. If that's not the case, then I'll probably not even spend a minute, because I can straight away say that, hey, we have this vision for next 2 years. We have the strategy. We want to execute on the strategy. And this particular initiative or this particular idea of yours is going to deviate us from our strategy. And that's not going to help us what we want to achieve, because we are working on a broader objective, whereas yours is pretty specific, which we can definitely look at after 2 years, right? The second thing that I look at is impact versus cost, which is somehow getting covered in this RICE framework, because if you see, reach, impact, and effort. So effort becomes my cost, reach and impact becomes my impact. So I look at impact versus cost. Now impact could be calibrated against multiple factors. We can probably do some exercise on this in a future session, but essentially every idea we should look at from impact versus cost angle. At the end of the day, we want to have a positive ROI. If we are not getting a positive ROI, then it's not worth pursuing it, unless and until it becomes your strategic initiative. So we may not get a positive ROI today, but 5 years down the line, we'll definitely get it. So it becomes our strategic objective, where we are ready to sacrifice on the positive ROI for the wider good. The third thing that I look at is confidence versus risk. So what is my confidence level that if I put this feature or if I put this hypothesis out, it's going to help me achieve my KR? What is the risk? So what if I put this hypothesis live? Can it impact negatively, or is there a possibility that some other thing may break, or is there a possibility that we may um, lose out, let's say 5% of our traffic as soon as I roll this out? So what's the risk? And again, you're calling those things out so that you're making your stakeholders aware that, hey, we are trying this out, this may fail, and if it fails, this is the risk that we may have to witness. But you're calling it out very clearly. And yeah, probably the risk is pretty high, but if that does not happen, if that negative impact does not happen, then the positive side of it is even stronger. And that's why you want to try it out. So confidence versus risk is the third thing that I look at. And the fourth thing is dependencies. So there could be situations, and there will always be situations that for everything that you want to work on has some or the other kind of dependency. The biggest dependency that you will have is on your engineering team. That's your biggest dependency for anything that you want to do. The second dependency that you will have is on your UX team or on your research team. The third dependency that you will have is on your partner team. So if you want to launch something on checkout, and let's say you own one of the category pages on Amazon, you will have a dependency on checkout team. Now, checkout team will have to prioritize that particular idea of yours or that particular problem of yours on their roadmap. So the lesser the dependencies, the higher the time to the better the time to market. When I say time to market, what I'm saying is that how soon can we go to the market with this feature, with this idea? The sooner that you can go, the sooner that you can learn, the better your strategy, your future strategy, your future action can be. So we need to have least number of dependencies to get the fastest time to market. Any questions on this?
Can we use two frameworks simultaneously?
So it depends. I do not have a guidance on this. That's why I said that this is what I use. And if you look at it, it's somehow kind of using both these frameworks, because there could be some features where the impact is low, but the cost is high. So that feature or that initiative can be like put to have. It's like it's a good have. You need not have it. It's a good have. There could be features where the feature does not align with your objective, with your overall product strategy. So that feature or that initiative can be categorized as won't have. I will not even think about that particular initiative. So that becomes won't have, right? So essentially it is using both these frameworks. And this prioritization, this exercise of prioritization will be different across different organizations. I've seen it, how it differs from my past 4 companies. So Wind Shuttle, Expedia, eBay, and then Indeed. All 4 of them, they use different methods, but the overall intent is kind of the same. Overall, they all are looking at these 4 things.
Right. Could you look into the chat?
DIE framework, any good? Demand 1 to 5, impact 1 to 5, effort 1 to 5. So again, something similar, right? So impact and effort, you are kind of putting it here. Demand, again, that's like reach, that how many customers are looking for it, and what percentage does that does that customer group account for? So something like a 80-20 rule. If 80% of your customers are looking for a particular feature, then you would want to roll it out. So yeah.
Aniket, one more thing over here, I feel from company to company, it depends is that if it's a startup, then experiment out and removing features, I feel would be little easy because you don't have to follow so many stringent processes. While in a bigger organization, the CEOs and the stakeholders, uh, again, take on the prioritization would be considered into the picture, right? So then it would also be that if the CEO or the again the main stakeholders want this particular feature to be rolled out, so then in that case, then you, even if you feel that the impact or the demand of that feature is not high, but then you're forced to take it up in the priority.
That's a very, very valid point. So if it's a startup, then you know you want to try out ideas to problems quickly, and
Right,
you have a leverage there because you do not have to convince and influence people around you.
right.
But in bigger organizations, yes, that's a struggle, and that's why I say that a product manager definitely needs to have those influencing and convincing skills. Because
Correct.
like you said, you know, you could be put in front of your CEO or CFO or CEO or VPs, and you know those people may challenge your thought process, and
Precisely. Right.
that's where having the right process in your mind, that you know how you went about prioritizing that particular idea or initiative, you know, having a clear process in your mind and document it somewhere is super important, because if you have that, then you can just put it in front of them that, hey, I prioritize this over this because of so and so reasons, and these are the data points which help me take this decision. And just by that, I can tell you that any of your leadership member will not question any further, because they see the confidence in you.
Hmm. Hmm.
They
Hmm.
see that
Right.
you have thought through it.
Got to it. And you have to place few things like again, as you mentioned, you have to prove to it to them that why you have brought you have prioritized this in such a way. Again, using customer demand as a metric or
Correct.
any other metric, right?
Correct.
Also, in case of a situation where your competitor has already rolled out a feature which is trying to eat into your market, right? And in some cases wherein I heard one case where Apple, after iPhone came out, Google was working on a different project, and when they saw iPhone come out, they were like, "This is not going to work for us," and they had to totally scrap it and move on to a different, like again, prioritize other tasks. So in that case, again, in organizations, large organizations, for that process to happen, is it a possibility, or again, it totally depends on the situation, the stakeholders or the decision makers? Because you although know that even rolling out those features, although your team is working it, they have started working on the middle of developing that, but it's not going to work out the way you thought it would, or you had expected it to. So instead, you just have one chance to either take that up feature or then leave it completely, because the current feature working on is going to take a lot of time for testing and then again rolling out. So in that case, how would you prioritize?
So again, a good scenario, and you know that's where you have to come up with pros and cons. So uh, you want to there is a situation where you have to decide whether you should continue or you should discontinue.
Hmm.
So what you'll do is you'll come up with pros and cons of this decision. um, Ali, may I request you to go on mute?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so let's say um, so what you'll do is you'll come up with pros and cons for deciding in favor of stopping this feature, and then you will come up with pros and cons for deciding in favor of going ahead with this feature. So you'll come up with those pros and cons for both the decisions, and then you will try to evaluate in your own mind that, and those pros and cons will be, you know, backed by some kind of data, backed by some kind of your observations, right? And then you will come up with some decision in your mind that looking at these pros and cons, this approach sounds better, this approach looks better. You're still not 100% confident, and you cannot be, but that's where you have to take some risk, and that's where you will decide that this is how you want to go forward. And what you will do is you will put your recommendation in front of your leadership, that my recommendation is um, to use this as a to go for this particular decision, and these are my reasons that why I'm suggesting to go for this decision. They can again challenge, they can again question. So the better the data points, the better the observations you have to back your thinking, the better it's gonna be for you.
Right. The easier it is to convince them based on data.
Correct, correct,
Right. Got it.
correct.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Let me ask a few more people. Saikiran, Sakshi, Anvesha,
No questions.
Rishikesh.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So now I wanted to quickly touch upon the backlog. So we briefly touched upon it, right? Once you have this so this particular prioritization is something that will always happen, and then it's something that is happening daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. But then there will be ideas that will keep coming, you know, and we are going to talk about the idea slide also, because when I was putting these slides together, there was a there was a stream of things that I wanted to touch upon. So I've tried to put this in a flow that typically happens with a product manager. So you are going through prioritization, and then you will automatically have your backlog getting created. So there'll be someone from your CS, customer support team, come up and say that, hey, I was on multiple calls in last 1 week, and there is this problem that 80% of those customers were facing. So there is a problem which has come from your customer support. um, your data is going to tell that, hey, there is a sudden drop at so and so point, or there is a gradual drop in customers landing on review page. So that becomes a problem. Now all these problems are kind of, what you'll do is you'll map them um, to your themes, and those themes or those KRs were reduced dropout in review page, reduced dropout on payments page, reduced number of steps or clicks to checkout, right? And that's where you'll come up with, you'll start putting your hypothesis or ideas. So for example, reduce dropout on review page, you can add some urgency messaging that only 2 rooms left. That's a common urgency messaging that you'll see on Expedia, Make My Trip, Booking, Clear Trip, Kayak, Agoda. Most of them use this urgency messaging that only 2 rooms left. Other urgency messaging that you will see is that um, 2,000 people are also looking at this room right now. So that creates a sense of urgency in your mind that, hey, if I do not do this now, someone will take this room, right? The other thing could be no change in pricing if the transaction is being done in 5 minutes. So there could be a situation that, you land on review page, you're just 1 click away from buy now, but you leave but you got some work and you could not complete the transaction. But then after you come back after 30 minutes and you go ahead, you click on buy now, and then it says that the price has changed by 200 rupees. Now that is a friction. Obviously, business is doing that because the price on the supply side, the price on the inventory side has increased. But if there is a way I can optimize this experience for customers who are doing these transactions in a particular period of time, then probably I'll not lose out those customers. So what I'm doing is I'll not get into details of each and every idea here, but what I did was there were a lot of ideas, there were a lot of hypotheses that I had that would have come from different people. And I put all those ideas, hypotheses in my backlog, mapped against each and every theme, each and every KR. And as a next step, what I would do is I would start evaluating each of those hypotheses against what? Against, against these four things. So all these hypothesis ideas, I'll have to prioritize, right? If I have to put together my roadmap for next quarter, or whatever my next cycle is, I'll have to prioritize these ideas. So I'll start prioritizing, I'll start evaluating all of these ideas against these four things. And there I'll need help from different people who I will start talking to, and come up with a prioritized list of ideas, hypothesis, basis these four factors, that I'll put it on my roadmap for next quarter. Any questions on this? Okay, if you're good, then I just wanted to touch upon one last thing, for your backlog, because I feel that many a times, and especially you will hear this from your engineering team, that hey, ideas, uh, who is the source for ideas? So where do ideas come from? So I'm pointing this finger at you to say that ideas are coming from you. But let me ask you this, is that right?
Ideas come from the problem.
Correct. But where are those problems coming from?
From the customer
The
experience.
customers.
Great. So yes, ideas are coming from all these people. Ideas are just not coming from you. Ideas are coming from you, from your customers, from your support team, from your sales team. Remember this guy? So from your sales team, from your engineering team, from your leadership, and probably many more other people, from your legal team. So ideas are coming from everywhere. And this is a common scenario. As a product manager, you'll be talking to all these groups of people who will be coming up with some or the other idea. And you just have to keep noting them in your backlog, and you will have to keep evaluating those ideas, keep evaluating those hypotheses against the key results, against the key objectives that you have for that year. And you will have to keep evaluating and keep saying no to those ideas which do not add value. That's your job as a product manager. You will have to act as a gatekeeper to all these people and tell them that, hey, we cannot work on this idea because it's not aligned with our objective, it's not aligned with our overall strategy. Hey, we cannot work on this idea that has come from support team because that idea is a huge cost. There is huge dependency and there is huge cost, and we do not understand if it's going to deliver significant value against that cost. And then there'll be some features which you'll say that, hey, they are very easy to implement and will deliver huge value, completely aligned with our overall strategy. Very few dependencies. Let's just go ahead and build. So all you're doing is you're getting ideas from all these different group of people. You're evaluating all those ideas constantly. This is one exercise that you have to do. You are always evaluating those ideas against those four things that I use. You can have your own, depending on, like I said, different companies have different ways to prioritize. But essentially, the crux of it remains the same. So you will keep evaluating those ideas against those four things. You will keep prioritizing those things. You will keep figuring out which are the things that you will not do, for which you have to say no to, whoever that idea came from. And then there'll be few ideas that you will work on in your next quarter or whichever your next cycle is. That's your job as a product manager, to act as a gatekeeper to make sure that you're delivering value every time. So I'm just going to stop here. I think this is what I wanted to cover today. Touch upon the overall product roadmap, backlog, prioritization, saying no to stakeholders, So yeah, I'll stop here to take any questions, comments, feedback. Okay, I think I'll again have to ask people. Sakshi, any questions from you?
Questions.
No questions? All
No.
good?
Yeah, just one thing, like how do we define confidence? Like usually it's 5% when we do it in stats. So how do we like decide like in previous slides it was there, no? Like confidence and risk.
Yes. Yeah, so this is more like, you know, more of your judgment basis the discussions that you have had with your stakeholders, which includes your engineering, which includes your you know, people on business side, and you will basically you will say that we are confident that this feature will have this impact, and we are confident that we'll be able to roll out this feature, or we are confident that this particular initiative will have this value to for our customers, and we are also confident that we'll be able to deliver this initiative in next, let's say, 2 months. So that is the confidence. And you know, it is basically a scoring. So let's say you are following a scale of 5, so you will say that for this particular initiative my confidence is 2 out of 5, which is like low confidence. And then there will be initiatives where you will have a confidence score of 4 out of 5, that you know that this is definitely going to deliver value, and you also know that you as your team can deliver this.
Okay. Yeah, okay. No, no more questions from my side.
Okay. Anisha, any questions from you?
गाइस एनी क्वेश्चंस एनी दो केसेस में क्वेश्चंस नहीं होते हैं, एक तो बहुत समझ में आ जाता है या फिर कुछ नहीं समझ में आता है. सो इट्स ऑल अबाउट लाइक फर्स्ट है, सेकंड है, आप लाइक कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा है या फिर सब समझ में आ गया है.
I had one question, not related to this topic, but it's a
हाँ.
general thing.
Okay.
Tangible versus non-tangible product management. Do you have any thoughts on that?
अच्छा, physical product or maybe like a digital product you're gonna ask, right?
Yeah,
है ना, digital.
and can we move into that or
कर सकते हो.
So what's your question?
Difference, I think.
So
a
difference is
difference
like,
and any experience from your side?
so difference is like LinkedIn versus Amazon. So LinkedIn is all digital. Amazon, it's all physical. Is that the difference that you're looking for, or you're looking for some more details?
Not specifically that, but say a cosmetic company or like something like that.
Uh-huh.
Even those companies process, they are also having a product, right? It's kind of
Uh-huh.
similar to the digital product management. So does
Uh-huh.
digital product management experience help us go into that or
Oh, okay.
have
Now
a
I see
mix
your
of
question.
those?
So it depends. I have seen very few people, at least in my experience, moving from digital product management to physical goods product management, or even the vice versa, because the nature, the overall, you know, the crux of the role may be very much same, but there I think there are a lot of other things that you would want to look at. For example, how does your you'll have brand marketing as one of your stakeholders, you'll have overall marketing, trade marketing as another stakeholders, you'll have people from supply chain as your stakeholders. So there the you know, you'll have multiple stakeholders, and you will also have a very different kind of working methodology as compared to a digital one. So yes, there would be a lot of differences, but the overall thing will still remain the same, that even a physical uh, a physical goods product manager will have to deliver value, stay competitive, stay differentiated from others, and keep adding value to business.
I think it's same
The
like
example was bad, cosmetic wala,
no.
but
So even
something
not
more like
uh,
mobile phones or
let
something
me
like
add
that.
you right, and let me add a point, right? So even like cosmetic, you just take an example of cosmetic. I'm just taking example of maybe a pen, right? So in that case, there's so much of competition in the market, and you still need to build it. Like grip कहाँ पे होगी उसका, कैसे यूज होगा, कितना फ्लो होगा उस पेन का, and everything. It's actually it's already like उसकी body कैसे design होगी, right? In that way also you can think about as a product manager. Like maybe there's a product manager who is designing the product, who is handling it out, who is actually seeing the what exactly the competitors are doing. So in that case also, product management to हर जगह requirement है. So even if it's a physical product or maybe it's a digital product, it's more about your mindset, like how your mindset works. Maybe you are the person who actually uh, maybe a person who physically feel the product and then can tell, or maybe like you are into more into the physical part of the product, like okay, I want to create a product where people can actually can use it physically, right? Versus a product as a service where you can actually can give them a service or something like that. So the things are same in a maybe you're maybe you are actually manufacturing a pen also, you will want to understand the market, you need to understand everything. I hope ये example सही रहा होगा आपके लिए, प्रीतम.
I actually wanted to like get into the mobile company and such as an example.
Mm-hmm. Let me do
But he
one
gave
thing.
out cosmetic thing.
So let's one thing. I think let me connect offline, right? I think I can actually can help you out with it, because there's tons of time where I'm encountering with the physical product managers, like who are doing in a supply chain, or maybe they are actually manufacturing the product, right? A real product, shipping the real product, right? In that case, I can actually can help you out.
I just
It
wanted
will be
a
help if you discuss in here itself.
I think we actually need to wrap up the meeting. That's why. But in that case, we can take this question in next session. What do you think about it, guys?
Yeah.
Mana? Let's take
I
it
think
in
it would
next
help.
session.
So I think Sai Kiran and Preetham, if you could share some more details, around what
Mm-hmm.
exactly are you looking at? What's your question, and where is it coming from? If you could share some more details around it, then the response that you could expect from, let's say, Ritik or from me could be a little better. Because we are answering to the best of our capabilities, to the best